Hi, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
Hi.
Hi.
We're like the Brady Bunch here. So the theme for the first week of Advent is darkness did not overcome. And we've been asked to reflect as a family to think about how both light and dark are necessary for life and in what ways we'll be thankful for both.
So, so boys, do you remember the trip that we took in the summer of 2013?
Not this trip. We went to like California and went stopped at all the national parks along the way.
Yeah. So I'm just
The
gonna,
Wild West.
yeah, the Wild West. I'm gonna briefly remind you, this was us at Yosemite. You guys were so small and cute, and we saw some sequoias. And then we
Yeah, you used to
stopped
be
at Great Basin National Park. It was a very desolate hike, but we saw these ginormous pine trees. And then we went to Bryce Canyon in Utah. You were complaining about how hot the hike was. And then we stopped at Black Canyon of the Gunnison. And then we finished at Rocky Mountain National Park.
Why are you pointing at the camera, Eric?
I forgot how many shoulder rides I gave Kaya.
Well, she was light enough to do that then. So, what do you guys remember about this trip?
I think one thing that sticks out to me the most is the Black Canyon of the Gunnison. We went to like this observatory thing, and they had like all these activities to show like the river going through and cutting the canyon. It's really cool.
Yeah, you guys were really into the Junior National Park Rangers program, I remember.
We kept all the little badges.
Eric?
I really remember the bristlecone pines in Great Basin. Um, they are probably the oldest trees in the world. They live for around 2,000 years, but after they're dead, they keep standing for another 5 to 7,000. Um, and I just remember one tree was partially still living, but the other half was dead. And it was very interesting. Um, and it was really cool to think that they've been around for really ancient times.
Yeah, so that's good, Eric, because it brings us to what we wanted to talk a little bit more about. Do you guys remember what the biggest unexpected sort of pleasant surprise was during the whole trip?
The stars, right? The stars at Great Basin.
Yeah, the stars.
Mhm.
Uh, we were able to see so many stars, more stars than I knew were even in the sky when we were in Great Basin National Park, and we learned why that was. Do you want to remind us, Eric?
Yeah, so Nevada, at least in this central part of Nevada, is very desolate. Very few people live there, and as a result of that, there is very little light pollution. In fact, on a map of the of our U.S. at night, Nevada sticks out as a black area, um, and yeah, basically, this darkness is what allows us to see so many stars, and that is not something you can get in most cities.
Yeah. Light pollution is one of the main causes of death among sea turtles and their babies when they hatch. And if they, since they hatch on beaches, which are usually close to cities, the light pollution from the cities, if they hatch at night, can make them confused and they actually go away from the water, and they can actually die from dehydration, which is really sad.
Yeah, so light pollution has more effects than you think. Uh, Besides just not being able to see the stars. Um, yeah, so I have to make a couple of confessions about this right here. So number one, I didn't know what light, there was such a thing as light pollution until we got there, and we learned about that. So that was illuminating, haha. And uh, even more basic than that, I didn't even know there was a Great Basin National Park. The only reason that we found our way there is that we started in Yosemite. We wanted to go to Bryce Canyon National Park in Utah. It was too far to make that drive in one day, so we needed a stopping point, and we just found this spot on the map that was a national park in Nevada. So when we were there, it sort of, and saw those stars, it sort of took our breath away. I think and maybe darkness can do that. It makes you stop and pause and think, and of course see things that you otherwise couldn't. And what we've been talking about is that maybe that's a good metaphor for this year of 2020 that we've been living through, that has had a lot of darkness in it, to be sure. But when we've had the pandemic going on and we've been spending more time at home, with all this other things going on, maybe also we notice things that are good about the world that we wouldn't have otherwise. And maybe you have some examples in mind about that.
Yeah, I was one thing that struck me during coronavirus and the pandemic was that I kind of renewed my faith in humanity of sorts. It was just really nice to see a lot of people doing all they can to help other people. Like at the church, we did the pantry to help people who needed food, and I know a lot of people help donate to certain organizations to help people, and people were doing their part. They were staying home. It was just really nice to see that we still have our humanity.
Something I realized was the winter before March, my life was very busy, but sort of this unexpected free time made me realize that maybe I need a slower pace of life. Um, and subsequently, our virtual school experience made me realize that I need a different environment to focus. And of course, that brought me here to Inawaki.
Yeah, for me, I'm thinking back to the days right after George Floyd's murder, and the cities were under, threat and siege, and there were messages going around that there were folks, who are going around to set houses on fire, and so we had to stand ready with water to fight back and things, and the this sense of being under siege was something that I have never experienced, like a personal threat I have never experienced. But then just coming to the realization that many in our BIPOC communities actually feel it every day is very painful, but it's also something that 2020 really made me realize.
Yeah, all those examples are things that came to my mind too. One that I will add is that in 2020, kind of, I'm embarrassed that I didn't realize it until now, but we have all these people who have always been doing and continue to do essential work that enables us to get our food and to have our health cared for when we need it, and a whole bunch of other things. Those people are otherwise not thought about and sort of invisible, but this pandemic brought their heroism, I would go as far as to say, to light this year. And so all these things are a little bit like the bristlecone pines and the stars in Great Basin National Park. They were always there, and we didn't know about that even. But once we were there and we saw them, we will always remember. So all these things in 2020, we're hopeful that we can remember them going forward, even though we wish that we would have seen them earlier.
Let us close with a prayer. In our watching and our waiting,
Come, Lord Jesus.
In our hopes and in our fears,
Come, Lord Jesus.
In our homes and in our world.
come, Lord Jesus.
In our light and our darkness.
come, Lord Jesus.